Hey guys, you're listening to Metal Matters, a weekly gimme radio podcast. I'm your host, Mike Hill. If you like metal, punk, hardcore, or anything extreme, you've come to the right place. So subscribe and never miss out. Hello and thanks for joining us again this week for a brand new episode of Metal Matters. This week, we've got Bobby Ferry from the band 16, who have a new record out on Relapse Records called Dream Squasher. 16 have been around for a really long time. They've been through a bunch of different ups and downs, different eras in music, and the one consistent thing is that they keep putting out awesome music for their 20-plus year career. So Bobby's a good guy. Our bands have toured together, and I consider him to be a friend, and I look forward to our more or less informal chat. So here we go. How has this whole thing affected the operation of the band, if at all?
I mean, just like you with Tombs, we had a tour pending. I mean, we had like a good 2 weeks of Today's the Day and their album release. It was, our tour was canceled like 3 days before it happened when this all started to really hit the fan. So it's a hit because, we're not a big band on the internet. We don't do big streaming numbers. I don't really care about mail ordering shit to people. I do it, but I don't advertise it, to be honest with you. If they could buy it through the label, merch. So, we're left with a few, but again, we're left with a few boxes of merch and, some lost revenue and lost good times. But, we've been doing this for 28 years or something. And, long view, we'll be fine.
Yeah. I see online, like all the tours that got canceled, for example, this Napalm Death tour that got canceled that we were supposed to be on, Mayhem. And what comes to mind immediately is that gigantic merch bill that has to probably be paid back to whoever printed up their merch. And that's why there's these bargain basement sales that you see online, and that's got to be rough, man. But hopefully gladly you guys didn't have anything like that, right?
I always like to tour with minimal merch and then order more if we have to.
Mm-hmm.
And because there's good people in almost every major city that'll do merch for you.
Oh.
So, if we might have lost. In fact, I don't even think we lost it because we still have the merch, and it's not like we're not going to go on tour again.
True.
Black t-shirts are going to sell. Just keep the damn cat off them, and that's cool.
You mentioned that you've been doing this for almost 30 years, really.
Yeah.
One of the burning questions I've always had ever since I found out about you guys, and we went on that tour together, and you and I have been friends for a number of years now at this point, is how did you guys come up with the name 16? Why not 17 or 18? I've always wondered why the fuck you guys call yourselves 16.
So the real story is, first of all, we started this band when we were like 17 or 18 years old. So we're old, but we're not as old as some guys in newer bands,
Yeah.
I meet people in newer bands and I'm like, shit, dude, you're older than me, So we started when we were super young and we were all into skateboarding. And there was a pro skateboarder that we used to hang out with named Mark Gonzalez. He's a real famous artist now. And he used to write on his boards, on his grip tape, Team 15. Like spelled out, 15.
Yeah.
And so we get together, the drummer at the time won like $600 on a slot machine. And we wrote these songs and we're like, we're going to go record. We don't have a name for our band or anything. And so we're like, let's call ourselves 15 after what Mark Gonzalez writes on his grip tape of his skateboard. And we idolized Mark Gonzalez, around Huntington Beach and all these areas that we hang around with, and we knew him. So we're like, yeah, we're going to call ourselves 15, spell it out, 15. We make these 7-inches, double 7-inch, we're getting ready to send them to Maximum Rock and Roll. And we go to Vinyl Solution in Huntington Beach, and Vinyl Solution's record store is still there. And the guy who owns Vinyl Solution, he's like, what's up, boys? What's up, kids? And we're like, hey, we got our 7-inch. We want to, we play it, we buy it. And he listens to it, and he's like, this is awesome. But there's already a band called 15 from Berkeley.
Yeah, the Bay Area, yep.
Yeah, so go home and make new covers. And we're like, okay. And then it was just a joke that, well, we're 16, And that's the real story. It's just like, well, that's stupid. There's no fucking meaning to any of it. And it's, people are like, why'd you name it that way? Well, that's the reason why. But it's like, if I would have known it was so hard to Google or search, first of all, if I would have forced me Google, I would have started a fucking band. So there's that, But, it's not an ideal name, but it's what we've built onto it for so long. So that's the real story. Just a big happy accident.
That's a good one, though, man. I suspected it might have been something similar to that. And that band 15 is way different than you guys, man. It's like,
yeah. I mean, we never even listened to this day. I don't think I've ever listened to them, even though we actually, our first quote unquote demo tape that we gave people on the first 7-inch says 15 on it.
Wow.
Totally embarrassing. It was just total ignorance. And the guy at Vinyl Solutions like, bring it back and I'll buy it. And then we just called it 16. We sent it to Flipside, Maximum Rock and Roll, and then Puffhead ended up writing to us and wanted to do a record. And, it was all just a big lucky thing.
That band was like a typical Lookout Records kind of thing. And I think I found out about them for 6 months. I was into pop punk, in the 90s. And it was like, I think that
for exactly 6 months.
Yeah, I was like, I was trying to hang out with girls and stuff, and and I was trying to oh yeah, man, I like a veil, and I'm like, I have a backpack and all this stuff, and check me out with my Lookout Records catalog, and I had a couple of those records, and the 15 record was one of the ones I got. There was a discography, and it's if you like that kind of stuff, it's cool, but it wasn't really for me either, and I always wondered why you guys came up with that name. But like you said, several decades later, it means something completely different. It means heavy, negative, brutal music, with a very sketchy kind of vibe to it, which is what when you say 16, that's what I think of.
Then we've done our marketing job properly.
Yeah,
that's where we're going.
At the time we're talking right now, the new album is still on pre-order, I believe. So when has the release date of that new record been affected by any of this foolishness that's going on?
No, we were given the opportunity to push it back or whatever. I think this is an opportune time to connect with people suffering, basically. Yeah. And it's like, I don't think touring release is mutually exclusive. Our timing is always off. Yeah.
Yeah.
I very rarely timed it so we're on the road right at a release. So, I'm not too concerned with the cycle, but it comes out June 4th. We have 2 singles out already. Me and the Dog Die Together, about killing yourself if your dog dies. We were deep thinkers. And then the first one, Candy in Spanish. We were calling it Dulce at first, but that's just kind of weird. And then we have I don't know, this director, Michael Panduro we've wanted to work with him for a long time. So he has our next quote unquote single, a song called Sadland that he's going to direct the video, and it'll be released June 4th.
Oh, cool.
Along with the record and pre-orders and all that good stuff.
Yeah, because you have a video that's out that got released a few weeks ago, I think. I've seen it, and I don't know when it officially came out, but that video's been making its rounds. It was posted on Decibel, I think.
Yeah, that's me and the dog got together. We had another idea for that. We had this friend. I don't know if there's this used to be this. San Diego's got quite the history for punk rock, and indie rock and stuff. And so our friend Ryan was the singer of this legendary band from here called Fish Life. And they played with Drive Like Jehu and Rocket to the Crypt and all that whole scene back in the early 90s. And he's just kind of a local legend. He's this hilarious guy that's a doorman at like 4 clubs. So we wanted to get like 10 dogs, and he has this vintage Lincoln Town car, and he's kind of a weirdo guy. And we wanted to just film him driving around with like 10 dogs, rocking out to our song. We couldn't do that, so we went on the Russian space dog found footage tip for that video. Yeah,
no, it's cool, definitely. Is there any sort of concept behind this thing with dogs?
Well, the song itself we've been playing it live for like 3 years. The chorus is me and the dog die together, and it's just, it's creatively, you maybe want to be aspirational and think about things above yourself, or sometimes you just want to look at the floor and there's your dog.
Yeah.
So, lyrically, I don't think we wanted to stretch out too far into the realms of whatever. It's just like, look at the dog, basically.
There's been
how cool the dog is.
There's been a couple of lineup. I mean, actually, 16 is no stranger to lineup changes. However, recently, Chris, or I don't know how recently, but he's no longer in the band, and you're the lead singer now.
I know. Check me out.
Yeah, that's how do you find that? Are you enjoying it?
I've been singing backup for a number of years, and on a couple songs. So it's something within my abilities. Chris is just kind of over it. He's tired. He wants to work. He doesn't, he put in a long time. So no real drama or anything. And we kind of have this unspoken thing. It's like, man, if you want to quit the band or you don't want to contribute, we don't need to know why. The reasons why is up to you, So it's not like there was any falling out. I mean, he's still our brother that we had, all these crazy adventures with. I sing his lyrics on the old songs. He's always an excellent lyricist. But it was just like, I'm the dude who's doing it in practice anyway. So I might as well try to do this. And, it took a couple weeks to hammer it out. And then we hit the studio. It was just kind of easy. I like to say it's a band. It's not a cure for cancer. So there's no reason to take everything so seriously. Let's just keep rising to the occasion.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult keeping a lineup together, man. I know that more than anybody too.
Yeah, exactly.
I bet you got, there's been a lot of people in and out of my band, a lot of people in and out of your band, but there was a period of time where actually you weren't even in the band.
That I've played on all the records. So all the records have my input.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a time in for our album called Zoloft Smile that none of the original members were in it. It was like another group of guys playing these songs across the country, going on tour. They went to Japan with Unstained. It was Phil Vera, who plays in Despise You and Trappist. And he played on our album Zoloft Smile and our album Blaze of Incompetence. So Phil's already wrote some of our, like, you know, like our main songs that we still play live anyways. And him, a guy named Mark Stanger, who's the drummer at the point, who, you know, we're also friends with these guys, and Rafa from the band Acid King and from Black Cobra. And I had left the band because I got a job here in San Diego. And so I had, you know, some job, I had a kid coming, so I definitely couldn't tour. You know, I had a pregnant wife, and I was like 30 years old or 28 or something, and, you know, hanging on by a thread. So they're like, we're going to go on tour, we're going to do this. I'm like, well, okay, then I step out. But it's just kind of this thing. It's almost like I think of this band as this thing that these group of friends do that, you know, one of us inherits it. And it's just like, well, I've inherited it now. So
that's actually pretty cool. So it's like this collective kind of thing. And, you know, there's like people that come, move in and out. And, you know, because I mean, I wonder if Chris actually will end up playing with you guys at some point again in the future, or is he 100% out?
You know, I think with Chris being just a vocalist and not a vocalist guitarist, he puts more on himself physically, and we're not getting any younger. So I think there's health reasons too. Like, you know, I don't want him to keel over with a stroke on stage or anything.
Right on.
You know, based on his blood vessel size on his skull. But with Chris, you never question his sincerity. You know, he'll bleed for it for sure. It's awesome. But I always say, you know, the door's open for anyone. You know, I mean, we're cool like that. You wanna come back, you can come back. You know, but if like I said, you know, we just kind of follow who had the creative spark for each album. And for this album, it was our guitarist, Alex. I don't think you've met him, but he's an awesome guy. And, you know, he's just super hyped on riffs. So he wrote a bunch of great riffs, and it fit better to my vocal style. So we just kind of Lennon McCarthy did, you know?
I don't know what comes to mind. I just now, but what popped into my head was like, I don't know, like back in 98 or something like that, my old band played with you guys. We were on tour with Playing Enemy, the ex Kiss It Goodbye band. And we played at the PCH Club with you guys. And I remember you guys rolled up. It was like right before the show started, you know, and you guys come in, and Chris was like this terrifying looking dude. I remember I was like, I have to keep my eye on this guy, man. He looks like trouble, you know?
Nah, you know, we're all nice fellas. What's funny is that we pulled up because that venue, the PCH Club, was like, we all lived in Long Beach at the time, and most of us did. So we all lived like 2 minutes from there, 3 minutes from there. And it was just used to be hell then, you know. But we thought we were cool living in shitty areas. But we weren't.
Yeah, that place was cool, man. The PCH Club. I wonder if it's like a parking lot now or something.
Dude, that's in the shadow of that oil refinery. Talk about hell. I mean, that's like, you know, it's a rugged area of Long Beach. It was definitely rugged back then. Back then, it was gnarly. You know, it's actually, I drove by there. I don't think it's a parking lot, but it's some kind of warehouse now.
Yeah, that's probably
it definitely ain't condos, but they ain't doing no fucking condos. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I think it's probably better served as a warehouse than a rock venue, really.
You know, do you miss those I mean, in Europe they still have them, but these kind of outlaw venues that are just they were just the shit back then. It was just like, this place has no permits. It's a warehouse. There's no stage. Yet, you know, a couple hundred people would show up and rock out. And maybe these still go on and I'm just out of the loop. I don't know.
I miss, let's put it this way. At the current phase of my life, I don't have any desire to go to shows at places like that anymore. However, I miss being like 27 years old and like, you know, playing shows at places like that and going to shows like that. Because like not too long ago, actually, I went to go see this band called Bloody Minded at this place in Bushwick. And I used to go to this same venue like years ago, and I saw bands like Hellshock play there and Selfish, and there was like that one year when all these like Japanese hardcore bands came over, and Ben from Drop Dead was the guy who drove them around, and there was one particular loft in this building that all those shows happened at, and I used to go to this one particular place all the time, but that was like 15 years ago. That was a long time ago. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. You know, some of my friends play in that band, and I went into the same building, and I was like, what the fuck, man? There's like puke on the floor, broken bottles everywhere, like people that aren't even like involved with the show, like hanging around, and like, you know what I mean? Like people that were just there, like hanging out, drinking beer, you know, doing some kind of drugs and stuff like that. And, you know, I went in to check it out, and it was just like, I don't really miss this, man. It's like, you know, it's like, I'd rather go see a band at a stage. And the funny thing is that same night, I'd actually been at a rock venue. I went to go see Watain and Morbid Angel and Incantation. And, you know, proper venue, sound system, you can see everything. And then after that show, I went out to this fucking warehouse in the middle of nowhere next to like this strip club called Pumps, which is like kind of like a spot out in Bushwick. I believe there's practice spaces above the strip club. And you know, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And I was like, oh man, check me out. I'm like out late, you know, fucking creeping around the neighborhood, you know, and it's like, and I was like, when I left, I was like, man, what the fuck? Like that, you know, it was fun, but I was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm really into doing this kind of thing that much anymore, you know?
I think like when you know, you're on a tour and it'll spoil you. You know, you'll play a great night at a club, and then the next, I mean, it was maybe a couple tours ago, we played a basement in France that had no bathroom, so they just put a toilet seat on a trash can full of leaves.
Damn.
And then we played, and you know, we played in this basement in this old, it was in Nevers, France. And, you know, it was like the night before we played, I don't know, like some legit serious show with other big bands.
Right.
And then the next night, here we are in the basement of a castle or something.
Yeah.
With no bathroom where, you know, you shit and you throw leaves in it on the toilet seat. And, you know, everybody broke bottles while we were playing, but it turned out, like, you know, in retrospect, we're like, man, that was like the greatest show on that tour. You know, we sold all the merch, and, you know, people, you know, it was just the funniest thing that you had to try to go to the bathroom with a trash can full of leaves.
Yeah, that's rustic.
But yeah, you know how tour it is. It's like peaks and valleys. You know, it ain't all Friday nights in Chicago or Berlin. It's a fucking Wednesday somewhere. You know.
Oh yeah, man, definitely. And sometimes in Europe, you play these like weird like places. Like it is kind of like you know, like you said, peaks and valleys over in Europe. You know, like there's like, you get the squats, and some are better than others. Some squats are like better than most venues here in the States, you know, and then you play like
the Arena Club.
Oh yeah.
You know, in Vienna.
Yep. Vienna.
That's like a crazy city.
Vienna's amazing, dude. And that particular venue, isn't it like several, it's like a compound, right? And there's like a couple of like spots. Like there's like a big room and then like a relatively small one. Yeah, I've been there a couple times. And I think there's actually a third like smaller venue there too. I love
There's like a venue in a church on that property too. Like you play inside the church. The church holds like 200.
Huh.
That's pretty cool. Pretty cool, dude.
So when you guys played Roadburn, did you play that cathedral space, or did you play like in the main room? Yeah, I love that room.
It was great. It was one of the finer shows in my life, to be honest.
I think that the whole. I think Roadburn is probably. It's funny. I was going to talk to you about this too. It's like my favorite 2 festivals ever, and you guys played both of them too. Was Roadburn and Hellfest. So let's get some of your reflections on both of those. They're both very different, but I think they're equally as awesome, but just totally different sort of vibes at both of those places.
Yeah. Hellfest, just as a fan, I mean, I thought everyone, Slayer, Behemoth, Sabaton, Caius Live, Doja Escape Plan, Carcass. We're all giant Carcass fans. So, we watched Carcass play Heartwork and we sat on stage. So that was nuts. And then our show was great. We were in one of those crazy tents that's like, I don't know, bigger than any place we've ever played, probably.
Yeah.
It's funny though, the touring up to that though, we were like in Portugal and Spain, and we were definitely roughing it. We were having a good time, but summer inland in Southern Europe is less than ideal.
Yeah.
And we kind of did it. It's like we were given the choice of like, well, you guys have done this numerous times. Do you want to try to do this and see how it goes? And we're like, okay. And it was an adventure for sure. But we played some cool shows in like Malaga, Spain, and Porto, Portugal. On the way there, a couple. Not only a basement show, we played the basement of a boat.
Oh yeah, in Porto, right?
Yeah,
yeah. I've done that one too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was crazy great, right?
Yeah, it was fun, man.
I think they eating goat's head soup and walking around the city.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's cool, man. It's like if I remember correctly, the area that boat is docked in is kind of like a ghetto-y kind of area, sort of dangerous, or I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of another ghetto in another city, but I think
that was it. We were told that like that's a place that the police don't go because the gang controls it, and they are the law enforcement, and it's just like dudes on dirt bikes.
Yeah, I remember being told that, definitely. So yeah, it's the same place then. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, what a beautiful city too.
Yeah, the Mediterranean's nice, man. I just like you were saying, summertime in that part, because everyone's doing these gigantic summer festivals over there. And if you're trying to tour in the summer, and actually really in any part of Europe, there's a lot of competing sort of stuff going on. I mean, even trying to tour around these big festivals is always tough too, because like you're over there and like Metallica's also playing, and it's hard to do shows.
And that they have true, like, Germany, it seems there in the summer, no one's there.
Yeah. They're all on holiday.
Yeah, they're all on vacation.
Yep.
So they all go to the coast. They all go to Spain. They all go somewhere.
I remember one time, and that's the reason why, if you're not doing festivals and you're just doing like a tour, they're always either in the early spring or in the fall, like when it's cold, And,
when people are home.
Yeah, people are home and they're ready to go out. Because I remember one time, like we did a tour in Europe, and we flew into Frankfurt, and we were getting off the plane, and we were going through customs, and this fucking German guy with it, was like, talking about the band, right? And he's like, oh well, all the festivals already happened already. Like I was some kind of fucking asshole for touring. Fucking trying to fly. Like I'm an asshole for going over there because all the summer festivals are over with. I'm like,
I don't need the abuse from you, man.
I'm like, thanks, guy. Why Why don't you stamp my passport, all right? Get the fuck out of here.
I don't need to hear this from you.
Yeah, but back to Roadburn though, man. That's like probably one of the best run festivals on like it feels like the feeling I always get is they intentionally keep it at a certain level. You know what I mean? They intentionally want it to not be so completely out of control. And they have like a very, I mean, this is my impression at least, that there's like this intention there to make it good for everybody. Like when you go to Hellfest, it's like total barbarism, man. Like I remember, like I didn't really go out much into the main show area, like where there's all the people. But I remember at the end of the night, there's like dudes, like people passed out and like just a sea of like humanity, man. And it's like, you know, it's waves of human flesh, you know, and it's like overwhelming somewhat, you know.
That's a camping festival too, you know. That's a giant campground of the, you know, those guys are so, I shouldn't say guys and gals, that are just so wasted that you're like, your face in the dirt.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah,
you know, it's shocking at first, and then like as you see the couple, you're like, they'll be all right. Yeah. This is part of it. This is what they do.
That's like the European way, man. You know, they get crazy in the summertime, you know.
That's dangerous crazy, but you know, it's obviously working for them. So. I ain't judging.
One of the things that you and I have talked about over the years is that you've taken more of a hands-on approach in producing the records. So on this new album, did you guys record some of it on your own, and was it all done in the studio? Like how'd the production work out?
Well, drums are a thing because we didn't want to use sampled drums. We just kind of got a purist mentality to that, which is probably good or bad. I just think when you listen to a playlist and everybody's using the same Superior drummer samples,
yeah.
You know, I don't know. So I'd rather sometimes go for some happy accidents, at least sound wise, with real drums. So we go to a guy named Jeff Forrest who's done all our records. He's most notably, he did the first, I think, one or two of Blink-182's albums. And he's here in San Diego. And he's been there forever. He's our friend. You know, he's almost like a member of the band. And so we let it run. We try to get a live track drums. And then everything else is just either done at home, except, you know, we piecemeal the whole thing together. And then we come in and kind of get together for the mix. Just a couple of us, though. You know, I'm actually, you know, you can. I mean, right now with Guitar Sims, and you know, we want one live amp on there, but you can pretty much not phone in, but you can do a lot of your raw tracks at home and make sure they're up to quality without spending the money. So.
It's crazy how technology has come around with that. You know, it's like we do a lot of that stuff too, with like DI guitars and stuff, and some live amps and things like that. But we always run DIs just to, if you want to reamp something or whatever. It's pretty crazy, man. I mean, I know there's this company called Bias that makes really, really sick like amp models, and I use those for demoing everything now.
I've looked at that Positive Grid Bias. Yeah. I've used it. I think we might have used the plugin on this album, maybe for the bass.
Yeah.
But I've looked at that head. You know, they make a 300 watt head that's like 6 pounds.
Yeah. I don't have that.
I'm curious.
I have the suite of plugins. Yeah, and there's a thing which I use where you can it's like similar to those Kemper setups where it sampled your actual sound, and you could do it either live with a microphone, or you can take a wave file from, say, record that you might have already played on with your amplifier, import that wave into the bias software, and they create your sound. And then you, from there, you just name that preset, and then like you can still tweak it, you know, whatever, add more gain or EQ it differently. It's, you know, I gotta say, man, it sounds pretty legit. You know, it's pretty good stuff.
It is. I mean, you know what? In the live context, I think you want to see two amps.
Mm-hmm.
Or you want to feel two amps.
Yeah.
But
Totally.
you know, in the studio, especially now, I mean, what you described is a frequency analyzer, and you know, those products, they just incorporate a frequency analyzer, and it can just tell you what the graphic EQ is on what it's hearing. It's crazy algorithm, and it's fascinating. And I'm always totally blown away by it too.
Yeah, no,
People are like, "Oh, those things suck." It's like, well, you're not using it right, because you know the EQ works the same.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, people that say it suck probably don't even know what they're actually listening to half of the time, because I know like there's a ton
every
of
record.
Records. Yeah, there's like a ton of records right now that are all done. Yeah, well, especially in like the metal genre, for sure there is, you know, and I mean, it's done. Sometimes producers, I think, can get a little lazy though, and you'll hear the same samples and the same sounds that are from record to record a lot of times, you know, and they're just cranking out like,
sure.
you know, they're just like cranking out like the same old stuff, you know what I mean? And I mean, that's all good.
It's almost like they've worked hard for those EQs, and now they're not changing them.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, you know, but you know, I'm not gonna, you know, I don't really have anything to say about that. If that's like the sound you want, good for you, man, go for it, you know, and it sounds pretty sick, so who am I, you know? And but live, you know, I'm never gonna not want to have like a head and like amps and, you know, cabinets and shit like that on stage. It's just that's like a whole other animal, really, you know.
You know, you see it during lineups of any band, without naming names, but the guys that have those modelers, and then somebody like, I don't know, Cannibal Corpse with just one Mesa Boogie dual rectifier or triple rectifier, and they kind of blew everyone away because of the tube amps, you know.
Yeah,
it's like he's got his sound, you know. He's got his you know, his overdrive pedal and his triple rectifier, and it hits you in the chest, and you're like, why would you want to digitize this?
Yeah, I mean, there's like a physical component to it that just is missing, you know. And yeah, it's funny. We a few years ago we did part of a tour with Creator, and they first day on that tour we played in Austin with them, and there was like, where's all the amps? You know, it was like they were like sound checking for like the entire fucking afternoon. You know how like sometimes like bands like that are, you show up and you load in and they're like, you know, they didn't even
8 hours later.
Yeah, the band actually didn't even sound check. It was the techs. They had guys that were like, they didn't play through a single song. It was like the guitar guy was doing the guitar tech stuff, and he was getting sounds, and not a single drum like sound check. Yet it still took them like 5 hours to do their sound check, you know. And they just walked out on stage, and the whole thing is like the second or third day on that tour, I'd actually become sort of friendly with their sound guy, and he was like, yeah, check it out. It's like there's this like R2-D2 looking rack of shit that's where their sound was coming from.
Running the show.
Yeah, running the show.
Runs the light.
Yeah, well,
runs the lights, runs the guitars.
Yeah.
Runs the bass, runs the samples, runs everything, man.
Yeah. And I imagine if you're flying in from Europe, right? And instead of renting an entire backline, if you just roll up one of these like Kemper setups, you're probably in good shape, you know? I mean, I could see it in that context. You know, you just put that shit in your carry-on bag, basically.
I think it loses the subtle improvisation of things going on when a band isn't playing hyper to the sequencer, you know,
Yeah.
or to a click, and it's all running the lights and everything. I don't know. Call me old fashioned.
Well, no, it's definitely not for me. But I'm just saying, like, you know,
Yeah.
if you're in a band that was playing material from 3 decades ago and you're just doing it for a paycheck,
Consistent.
like Creator,
consistent as fuck. That's just,
you got to do what you got to do, you know.
Fucking press the click and let's go. And every time. Yeah, man, that's awesome.
You know, it's funny.
I'd like to hear the. Did you take any pictures? I'd like to hear the whole story about that tour.
I think I have pictures.
I'm sure it was hilarious.
Yeah. There was like it was a pretty interesting. It was actually these 2 tours that sort of came together for a few days, and it was that same year that we played at Ozfest, and we were on tour with 1349 and Goat. And then there was like a few cities where the Creator tour was happening, and there was a run of dates that we all did together. And I wish I had like awesome things to say about those days, but I don't, so I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We'll just, I think I've said enough, if you know what I'm saying. So
yeah.
But so the new band. I mean, I think I met one of the new guys. So were these guys in any other local bands or bands I might have heard of or anything like that?
This lineup has been together. So we just lost a member. We haven't changed, had a lineup change officially in about 6 years. So we've had a good, consistent 6-year lineup with this record. No. Well, actually, you know, the bass player and the drummer are kind of like local legends, and played during the heyday of the San Diego scene in the 90s. The drummer was Dion. He used to play in this crazy band called Creedle, which is kind of like jazz punk, shrill. I don't know. It was definitely cool and definitely innovative for the time. And the bass player, Barney Burks, played with SST artist Sylvia Jankola, and toured Europe, and you know, played in the late 80s, early 90s with all the SST bands, with Rollins band, with
cool.
Poison Idea, with the Screaming Trees. So you know, when I was just stoked to know these guys anyway, and that's the fact that they want to hang out and listen to me riff is even better. But, you know, especially with Barney, because Barney, I love them both. But Barney, you know, he had been a road dog in the late 80s and 90s. So, you know, he played like Italy, Milan with the Rollins band on like the Hard Volume album or something, man. You know? Yeah. Like, you know, he's done some crazy shit, and seen some crazy shows, you know. And he you know, he was like at the original, James Addiction at this place called the Anti Club in LA, real kind of legendary punk club, Fender's Ballroom, all that stuff, the Bad Brains, you know, Agnostic Front, and all those shows happened. So he's got a bunch of good stories, and he played a bunch of those shows too. So
damn,
I mean, he's played a bunch. Like I said, you know, Poison Idea, he's got a bunch of stories of that, and then Screaming Trees, you know, early Screaming Trees, SFT era. He's got a bunch of good stories about that. So, you know, they weren't amateurs. I was stoked to have them.
That's awesome.
And then Alex, our guitarist, is just literally some dude I found. Not some dude, but he's from Israel, and he moved here. He's from Russia by way of Israel, and he moved here maybe 5 years ago. And just looking with people to jam with, and I was like, you know what? I'll never learn how to play lead guitar.
Yeah.
Because it already would have happened. So I'm like, you know, let's give this guy a chance. And it was like, you know, like 2 practices, and we're like, all right, you're the guy. And then now he basically is our in-house producer. He knows a lot about production too, and you know, a lot about arrangements, and he writes killer songs. So just like I always say, it's just one big fucking happy accident, and it keeps rolling.
That's awesome, man. It's funny you mentioned the Screamy Trees. I've been on this like huge sort of re-examination of that band's early records recently. Yeah,
dude, don't even get me started. That's all I listen to lately.
Yeah, man. It's especially those SST records. Those are the ones that are not too many people even know about those. And that was some of their best material.
That band's just a gem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I like. I like all their stuff, really.
Yeah.
But I thought Uncle Anesthesia. I think I was in like senior year in high school. I saw him on one of those tours, and it's I was floored. I was floored just out of puberty. So
that Uncle Anesthesia, I think, is probably, in my opinion, that's their the zenith of their career in a lot of ways. It's like it still had that same feel as the older records, like the kind of psychedelic, rock vibe to it, like garagey kind of vibe. But there was also this like ear towards catchiness, like really catchy, like hook laden songs and really good production too, which is like because it was on a major label. And Bud Factory too. Those were all very like for the time. Those used to be like so underground. All the SSDs in that era. At least I thought it was when I was a teenager. Yeah, dude.
You get your
the SST stuff was like kind of like the thinking man's punk rock music in some ways.
I was a huge fan of they were like one of those labels. It's like whatever they put out, I'm going to listen to, no matter what.
Yeah, same with me.
Yeah, I don't think they. I mean, maybe they put out some thinkers. I don't know, but it was shit. It was all pretty solid.
Yeah, it was all pretty quality, but I would say that there was some stuff that was like a little bit too out there for me at the time it came out. Maybe. Like a band like Slovenly or something like that was like it's cool, but it wasn't something that grabbed me. But like, you can't fuck with them though. They had Soundgarden, they had Screaming Trees, they obviously the older material like Black Flag, Saint Vitus, like it's classic shit.
Yeah, those SSD. I was really into Sonic Youth Sister too. That was just that song Schizophrenia. Those just. I mean, I saw them play back then too, and it was like. Nothing's in tune, but this is an amazing song.
Yeah.
Like, and that was the thing. Like, it was so abrasive. It was shit. Part of that song is played with a drumstick, over the pickup.
I've always been very reluctant to give props to Sonic Youth. Like, I recognize some of their material as being interesting and good, and I like some of their stuff, but by and by, I just get so annoyed by just their whole thing in some ways, like I can't stand Thurston Moore's like interviews, and I just feel like the band itself is kind of like it's just something that I never really got into Sonic Youth.
They were just one of those evil or whatever. Those were records, definitely records in my youth for sure. As they kind of mainstreamed, I of course became too cool for school.
Yeah.
So I haven't listened to any of their new stuff.
Nah, man, I didn't even know if they have anything that came out since the '80s. To be honest,
Yeah. I saw somebody in a video in an orange beanie, and I was like, "Nah, I'm done."
Yeah, I mean, I read Kim Gordon's book that came out a few years ago. I've always been a fan of specifically Kim Gordon, but the music, like I'm not really so into the band after a certain period, and even the period I don't really like that much, really.
Dude, speaking of books, you know what I just bought because pandemic. I'm home. I'm actually reading books, I buy books all the time, but I don't fucking read them. But now I've been reading them. Is that one book you told me about? Disco's Out, Murder's In.
Oh yeah, man. Yep. About your part of the country, man.
Yeah, I mean, we both know Ron from Sonic Conflict. I bet he knows those guys.
He probably does, man.
I guarantee you he does, which is so awesome. Yeah, I'm like halfway through it, and it's just shocking. I mean, it's just it's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
LA's deadliest punk gangs.
I actually asked Ron. I asked Ron about it, and he was like, I'm going to paraphrase him. His take on it was like, 50% of what that guy said was true, but the 50% that is true is fucking gnarly. You know what I mean? So it's like,
yeah, it's still fucked up. It's exaggerated, but it's still fucked up.
even the not exaggerated parts are fucking insane. So anyone out there who wants to read about just violence, like punk crew gang violence, disco's out, murders in. I think Feral House put that out, right?
Yeah. Good old Adam Ferry.
Yeah, the intensity of those guys is kind of like unbelievable, really. Just how fucking into just doing violence those guys were.
I was in the 80s. I was in high school, so and around there, Huntington Beach, Long Beach. I lived in Tustin, so that stuff was always on the periphery. You'd go to shows and there'd be opposing gangs.
Yeah.
But it was LA, so the gangs were definitely real gangs.
Yeah, I didn't experience anything like that out here on the East Coast, man. I mean, there was crews, but my impression of LA in the 80s was there were straight up like gangs, like doing fucking gang shit,
There was gangs in those communities, and then there was the gang members who liked punk rock.
Yeah,
and that's all it was.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's what I was meant. Yeah.
Yeah, and this was LA pre-riots was just a sketchy place. I mean, sketchier than it was post. It's like the riots. I don't know if everybody got it out of their system. I lived in Long Beach during it, and it was like afterwards, everything felt better, which is weird. Which is a weird thing to say because they burnt the whole place down.
Damn.
I mean, it was tense. I don't know if there's any data on crime rates getting lower after a riot. It's like a purge concept. But the purge definitely happened during that era.
Yeah, I was terrified of LA when I was I was in high school in the 80s, and I was like, you'd read about Los Angeles and you'd see things on TV, and there would be bands like Suicidal Tendencies and Black Flag and things like that, and you're like, oh man, this is like, I hope I never go to LA, man. I'm probably going to get killed if I go there, or like, abducted or some shit, or killed in a drive-by shooting or something. But
it's the same way that like my parents or my aunt and uncle who live in Jersey, they're like, how do you live in California? Like mudslides, fires, and drive-by shootings. It's like, no,
Yeah.
And I have my own preconceived notions of Jersey itself, that I know having been there several times are pretty much untrue,
Yeah. I mean, I got to be honest, man, like Southern California is probably, actually all of California is probably my favorite part of the country, man. I even like Northern California quite a bit.
Oh, hell yeah. I know why they stopped here, man. It rules.
Yeah. Not so into the Northwest, but I like California though. Not a big fan.
Yeah,
of
yeah. I do love those cities, but man, weather's a huge thing. It'll rain like 30 days in a row.
Yeah.
And just dealing with that.
Yeah, that's a heavy scenario to deal with, With all this shelter in place bullshit going on, it's hard to ask, but do you guys have any plans for the future with the band or anything like that?
Well, we have another record written, so we're just pushing on. You know, we got like 11 new songs, and we practice, you know, with masks on right now. I'm going there now. So we're just going to keep rolling and see what's offered. But in the meantime, we're going to use this to create while we still have the spark. Because if you don't feel like doing it anymore, that's the real test of doing this to begin with. If you don't feel like creating something you want to hear, then get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, definitely. You're not doing anyone any favors.
So, yeah, exactly. So, you know, I don't want to hear my old shit. That's, you know, I really don't. After I push forward to something, I'm like, that stuff sucks. I can do better. And that's what moves this whole thing forward, for good or bad. You know, but that's our plans now. Like, we're recording on Saturday.
Really?
So,
Damn.
Yeah. So fuck it. You know, we got to do, you know, like we're going to demo 2 songs, and usually our demos, at least the drums, turn into keepers.
Huh.
And then
That's pretty cool.
You know, we'll either edit our way out of the mess or start again, you know?
Yeah. Bobby, thanks for joining us, and appreciate it. And you guys, everyone, keep an eye out for the brand new 16 record.
Thank you so much, man. Totally appreciate it.
That's it for this week's episode of Metal Matters, a Gimme Radio weekly podcast. Tune in next week and see what we have in store for you. The show is available on all streaming platforms, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, etc. Also, be sure to check out Gimme Radio, streaming on the web, iOS, or Android, for one of the best metal communities, exclusive merch, interviews with artists, and so much more. I'll catch you guys next week. Take care.